Good morning, everybody in grade 6 at Rehoboth Christian School in Copetown in Canada. Good morning, I'm Alistair Humphreys, calling you today from my quite cold shed just outside London in England, not London, Ontario. It's lovely to be talking to people far, far, far away from here. I did a little bit of Googling of where you guys are before I started this video, so I could see the landscapes and some of the beautiful places you are living near the Great Lakes. I love that, being able to just chat, well, sort of chat to people all around the world. Thank you in particular for reading my book. Sorry, I haven't even introduced myself. How rude is that? That's very rude, I'm sorry. Let me start again. Good morning. I am Alistair Humphreys, an adventurer and an author. I've written The Girl Who Rode the Ocean, which is the book that you guys have just read. Thank you so much for reading my book. I love to think that my book has gone from this computer here, in my shed here in England, all the way to you guys, thousands of miles away. I think that's awesome. I hope you've enjoyed the book. By the way, did you see the little flip bit at the bottom? That is my favourite part of the book. Right, sorry, I should just get on and answer your questions, shouldn't I? It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and what I really need to do today is get on. I'm writing another book at the moment, so I need to be doing that. So I'm slightly procrastinating by chatting away to you. But I'll answer your questions very happily, then I'll have a cup of coffee, and then I'll get on with writing. Okay, question 1. How long did it take you to write the book? What made you decide to write a book about it? Well, I decided to write a book about rowing the Atlantic because, well, in a simple answer, writing books is my job these days. I've written 15 books, and so writing books is my job. So that was part of why I did it. And another part, hopefully, is that I would be able to write a book that would get people interested in adventure. But with this book, different to the other books I've written, I really wanted to write a book that talked about some of the important issues that the oceans are facing. So that was part of why I wanted to write it. How long it took me to write? Golly gosh, it took me a crazy amount of time is the answer, because I started writing the book. Nobody wanted to publish it, so I gave up for a couple of years, and then I'd be writing another book, and I'd finish that, and then I'd have another go at this ocean book, and it wasn't very good, so I'd stop it again, and then I tried to write it with loads of people rowing in the boat, and that wasn't very good, and then I wrote it with just one person in the boat, Lucy, and that was kind of boring because you're just in a boat, and I was thinking, how can I make it more interesting? So I gave up for a while, and then eventually I got to the point where I was like, right, I just need to finish this book. You know, like when your homework drags on and on and on. I was like, right, I just need to finish it. So I made it my main effort. And then it took me probably about 8 or 9 months in the end when I actually got on to do it. So I have to say I was extremely relieved when I finally finished the book. I'm getting quite hot now. Warming up in the morning. Oh gosh. To brush my hair. What was your favourite part about rowing the ocean? Well, when I actually rowed across the Atlantic Ocean, I did it. It was a boat of 4 of us, 4 guys in the boat. So my favourite part was just the times when we were just the 4 of us together, were just laughing and laughing and laughing about stuff. I think when you go on a big adventure with a few other people, you become really close together. And there's no one else to talk to, and you're so tired, you go a bit crazy, so we just laughed so much. So I think that was my favourite part. But another part I loved was the sunrise. You row through the night, it's so tiring, it's so exhausted. That was actually a real yawn then. You're so exhausted, and then you get the first glimmering of the sunrise. We were going to the west, so we were rowing like this, and over there you start to see the sky get a bit lighter and dawn coming, and then eventually the sun would just come up over the horizon. Amazing. You feel, it really wakes you up. New day, it gets light again. Someone would make a cup of tea or some hot chocolate. Really love it. I loved the mornings. What is your favourite sea creature that you saw on your adventure? Without a doubt, seeing a whale. Just the size, the awesome massiveness of a whale, which is just so magical to see. And it comes up and then it goes down and it's gone because it's tiny in the giant emptiness of the ocean. So that was a wonderful thing, was to see a whale. How big was the boat that you travelled in? It was 8 meters long, the rowing boat. So it was actually pretty similar to this, except that we had 2 rowing seats. Lucy only had 1. We had 2 rowing seats. We had the main cabin at the back. This is where we would you could sort of sleep and do the cooking and organise things and write our blog on our laptop and fix things. And then up at the front, Lucy just used that hatch for storing stuff, but we used it for a bed. It was tiny. It was basically a bit like being in a coffin. You'd slide in there feet first, and you could, when you were in there, you could just sort of take off your clothes, but you were squidged up against the ceiling, and then you'd lie there. It was at first quite scary to sleep, but we all realised it was actually the best place to be, because you could wedge yourself in position against the walls, and then as the waves are bashing you around, you'd sleep quite well. And also the back one, if you were asleep, the other 2 guys were still rowing. If they suddenly needed to come in to use the radio to call a ship up, or if something broke and they needed some tools, they'd come in and they'd wake you up, and it's really annoying. So actually the coffin at the front was the best place to sleep. What year did you row the ocean? How old were you? It was a long time ago actually I did this. I rowed it in 2012, so it's 10 years from doing the row to eventually getting the book out into the world. How old was I? How old am I now? I was 35 when I rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. Have you been on any other big adventures besides rowing the ocean and biking the world? Yeah, I've what else have I done? I've done a couple of other books. Oh, look at this. So this doesn't answer your question, but I think it's really cool. I wrote a book about my adventure heroes called Great Adventurers, and it's just been translated into Korean, which is really cool. So I'm guessing somewhere on here it says my name in Korean. Fantastic. Yeah, I walked across Spain playing a violin very badly. If you look on YouTube, My Midsummer Morning, there's a 20-minute film that will make you laugh of me playing the violin very badly in Spain. And I also walked across India. I've done some adventures up in the Arctic, some cold adventures. I did a trip in the Empty Quarter Desert. I don't know, can you see up on my ceiling here? There's a movie poster. If you look on YouTube, it's called Into the Empty Quarter, and that's me pulling a huge cart, very badly designed cart, through the Empty Quarter Desert in Arabia. How seasick did you feel when rowing the ocean? Oh gosh, seasick was one of the worst. It's one of the worst feelings you can have in your life. It's so horrible. The first couple of days, we'd all 4 of us were rowing, puking, eat some food for energy, puking overboard, feeling so sick. It's horrible. For some unlucky reason, I got seasick more than everyone else. So everyone else recovered, and I was still seasick for about 10 days. It was awful until finally you recover. What's quite weird is that once you've finished, you get used to it, and then you're fine. When you then get back on land, suddenly the land all feels like it's wobbling around. You completely lose your balance, and that would make me feel quite nauseous and sick as well. And the whole just solid ground moving around felt so strange when we got back onto solid earth after 45 days at sea. What was the biggest ship you saw, and how close were you to hitting it? We saw massive ships. You know those the really big ships with all the containers on them that go that go onto lorries, go onto big trucks. The containers, they look like blocks of Lego. They're massive. They're, I don't know, 200 meters long. Massive ships. To be honest, we never got close to hitting it. Lucy, in the book, she has a very, very close encounter with a ship. We kept better watch than Lucy, and we kept clear of the boats, so we didn't actually have any close encounters. But that's a boring story, so I had to spice it up and make it a bit more exciting for Lucy. Did flying fish actually hit you in the head? If it did it hurt? My friend Steve, he's from Northern Ireland, he got properly whacked in the head. So it was him who invented the bucket on his head flying fish helmet. We all got hit a bit by flying fish. I think the one that hit him in the head was quite big, so they did hurt. Most of them were pretty small little fish. It was just a shock in the dark and a flappy sort of shock, really, when you're rowing along in the dark. Let me show you this. So, a friend of mine just went on holiday to Barbados, and they brought me home a dollar coin. I'm not sure this is going to work. Oh, it might do. Can you see that? Barbados $1 coin has a flying fish as its symbol. How cool is that? You can see my bad fingernails here. Don't bite your fingernails, kids. Bad habit. Flying fish are cool though. I just love them. I thought they were fantastic. What made you decide you wanted to row the ocean? What made you decide you wanted to row the ocean? I wanted to row the ocean just for the challenge. Could I do something really difficult and hard and tough? And what would that teach me about myself? I wanted to test myself and challenge myself. I also thought it would be exciting, and I thought I was interested to be out in the beautiful wild places of the ocean. Question about capsize. So when I wrote the Boy Who Bite the World books, these are the stories about me cycling around the world, and these are basically true stories. The adventures that happened in here happened to me when I cycle around the world. The trouble with rowing an ocean is that when you do an adventure, you kind of want exciting stuff to happen. But when you prepare an adventure like this, you want to avoid exciting stuff happening. You don't want to get really close to ships because that's really dangerous. You don't want to not put out the sea anchor or the drogue for too long so that then your boat's in a dangerous position. You definitely don't want to capsize. So what that meant was that when I was writing the book, it was a bit of a struggle because we succeeded on the adventure really well, which kind of means nothing exciting happened. And that was one of my troubles when I was writing this book, and I kept starting it and stopping it, starting and stopping it, was that, to be honest, rowing the ocean is pretty boring a lot of the time. And I didn't want to write a boring book. And so in the end, I decided I needed to spice this up with a couple of stories that didn't actually happen to me. So the capsize, we didn't actually capsize. My friend Sarah Ooten, who rowed across the Pacific, the Indian, the Atlantic, she's done a lot more rowing than me. She did capsize lots of times. So I've read her books and I've talked to her, and so I used her experiences of capsize to basically make my story more exciting. But to be honest, I'm very, very glad I didn't capsize in reality. I think I'd have been absolutely terrified, and Sarah is incredibly brave. By the way, it's so cool to have loads of books. For me, books are like adventures, but just whatever you're excited in. If you get books, then suddenly there are so many ideas for adventures, and you learn so much, but you're having fun. So I love having books that I can just take down and read and give me ideas for things. How much time did it take you to prepare to row the ocean? Okay, so me rowing the ocean was a bit of a funny story, really, because it takes a long time. I mean, years, 2-3 years, in order to build a boat, or at least save up money to buy a boat, and then to prepare the boat, to kit it out, to put all the equipment in, all the electrics, fit the solar panels. You have to take someone on the boat has to take courses to prove that they're qualified. Lucy does these quite quickly as evening homework, but you have to learn lots of skills. You have to raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's a really expensive business. You have to try to find sponsors. Lucy found her sponsor she was very lucky. She found her sponsor nice and easily. Our boat actually, by the way, was sponsored by a Slovenian cell phone company, because the guy who originally organised our trip, he's called Marin, he's from Slovenia, and when he rowed the Atlantic, he was the first Slovenian to ever row the ocean, and being the first made finding sponsorship easier. So Marin, and then he had a friend, Simon. The two of them had kayaked around South Korea together, and then Simon was friends with Steve, who does a lot of water sports, and they were friends together, sort of sailing and canoeing and kayaking and surfing and things like that. And then they had a fourth guy doing it, and then unfortunately the fourth guy had to drop out of the team, and so just 2 months before departure, they suddenly, after all this years of preparation, they needed some other guy, and it's quite hard to find someone at short notice who can just drop everything from their life and just to go and row the Atlantic. And so I got an email from Marin, who'd read my blog and read some of my stories about other adventures, and he explained that they were planning to row the Atlantic. They were leaving in 2 months. Would I like to join the team? So I just joined the team at the very last minute, which was quite a strange situation. So I didn't do all of the difficult preparation part that the others did. How many times did you swim in the ocean? Lots is the answer, especially later on in the trip as we got nearer to the Caribbean and the water got much warmer. Then we would swim lots, 2 or 3 times a day. Often we would just, when you've rowed for 2 hours in the heat, you're so hot and sweaty and disgusting, and then you have 2 hours to go and rest and sleep. So often what we do is, when we swapped over, the 2 guys who were going to go for a rest, we would literally just take off all our clothes, jump into the sea, get back out again, get dry, and go and lie down. So we're often quite quick. We weren't sort of just swimming for hours, but we did jump in a lot of times. How much money was the boat that you bought, and did you sell your boat? So actually, I mentioned that the it's quite expensive. Rowing an ocean, you can spend loads of money or not so much money, but you're going to need £30,000, dollars upwards. So it's not an expensive way. It's not a cheap way to have an adventure. If you want a cheap adventure, get a bicycle and a tent and go cycle around the world. But yeah, this is expensive. And so when we got to Barbados, we sold the boat. And selling the boat paid for us to fly back home, and then they put the boat into one of those containers that goes on the back of trucks, and that was put on the ship, taken back to Europe, and someone else bought the boat and used it for their adventure. And actually, even just now, 10 years on, I just saw on the internet recently that our beloved boat is still going strong, still having adventures rowing oceans. Some other person has taken it on and is having the adventure of their life in her today. Did your best friend help you, and what was their name? So in the book, I mentioned earlier that I was struggling how to make this interesting when it was just one girl, Lucy, rowing the oceans. And so I wanted to have another character, so I brought in Ava, good friend of Lucy's. And I made Ava up. What Ava was really, she was a mixture of so many people in real life who helped us. Our friends, our families, our parents, different people who were interested, people we met at the boatyard, all sorts of people who came together in small little ways and helped us and encouraged her and encouraged us. So I just wanted to have that spirit of someone really cheering you on, which means a lot to you when you're out in the ocean. And I combined all those people into Ava. Did you name your boat Izzy? No, so our boat, Izzy was named after the sponsor, wasn't she? The pizza company, very unhealthy sponsor. Our boat was called Tushmobil, which was a Slovenian cell phone company, which they gave us loads of money, paid for the boat, and that was fantastic. I thought for the book it was a bit of a boring name, so I wanted to make it a bit more interesting. And also, because I was having this real struggle that one person rowing a boat makes quite a boring book. I wanted the boat to not come alive, but at least I wanted the boat to feel like a personality, so that Lucy could talk to somebody. And so I liked the idea of having a boat's name that was an actual person's name, so that it made it a bit more natural when Lucy was talking to her boat. I did at times think maybe to go a bit supernatural and have the boat that could actually talk and talk back to her, but in the end I did want the book to be as realistic to my experiences as possible, so I just kept it with Lucy talking to her boat. Final question: did anyone laugh at you for the idea of rowing the ocean? I don't think people laugh at us for doing it, but they definitely questioned it and said, "What are you doing? This is crazy. This is dangerous. This is hard work. This is expensive. This is taking a huge amount of time and effort. Why? So a lot of people, I think, with adventures ask why. And when people ask why you do an adventure, I tend to give different answers every single time. But an answer that I liked to that, it was a guy called Wally Herbert. He was a British guy who did some amazing expeditions up near the North Pole quite a long time ago. And he said, what is it? What all these people who say, why do you do adventure? And his answer was, if you have to ask why you're doing the adventure and you can't just feel the answer inside yourself, then you're not the right person to do adventures. So I think what he meant by that was that it's a really hard thing to explain, but if you love adventure, you just feel inside yourself that this is what I want to do, and this is important and meaningful and worthwhile to me. So I don't think people laughed at us, but they definitely thought we were a bit crazy. Thank you for those excellent questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for reading my book. That's brilliant. I'm absolutely thrilled that it's travelled across the Atlantic, as I did in a rowing boat, into your classrooms. So yeah, please tell your friends about it. I'd love more people over in North America to read this book. Thank you so much, and good luck with all of your own adventures. Bye-bye.